Writing. So you are reading with me, and that means I will stop so that you can go answer the questions. So that's pretty cool. You'll have that opportunity. All right, so we're starting on Progress Report 11, which is page 293 on the top left-hand corner, or page 9 if you look at the bottom right-hand corner. If you're following along with me, you can just watch what I have on the screen. Okay, so Progress Report 11, April 21st. Okay, and I will stop for you to answer the questions. The questions do go in order. Still didn't go into the factory. I told Mrs. Flynn, my landlady, to call and tell Mr. Donegan I was sick. Mrs. Flynn looks at me very funny lately, like she's scared of me. And there is a question on that paragraph. Go ahead and answer it and pause this video. I think it's a good thing about finding out how everybody laughs at me. I thought about it a lot. It's because I'm so dumb, and I don't even know when I'm doing something dumb. People think it's funny when a dumb person can't do things the same way they can. You have another question on that paragraph, so go ahead and pause this and head on over and answer it. Anyway, now I know I'm getting smarter every day. I know punctuation and I can spell good. I like to look up all the hard words in the dictionary and I remember them. I'm reading a lot now, and Miss Kinnian says I read very fast. Sometimes I even understand what I'm reading about, and it stays in my mind. There are times when I can close my eyes and think of a page, and it all comes back like a picture. Go ahead and answer the next question. Pause this video. Besides history, geography, and arithmetic, Miss Kinnian said I should start to learn a few foreign languages. Dr. Strauss gave me some more tapes to play while I sleep. I still don't understand how that conscious and unconscious mind works, but Dr. Strauss says not to worry yet. He asked me to promise that when I start learning college subjects next week, I wouldn't read any books on psychology. That is, until he gives me permission. I feel a lot better today, but I guess I'm still a little angry that all the time people were laughing and making fun of me because I wasn't so smart. When I become intelligent, like Dr. Strauss says, with 3 times my IQ of 68, then maybe I'll be like everyone else and people will like me and be friendly. And you have a question here. We're going to have a question on the next paragraph as well. I'm not sure what IQ is. Dr. Niemer said it was something that measured how intelligent you were, like a scale in the drugstore weighs pounds. Dr. Strauss had a big argument with him and said an IQ didn't weigh intelligence at all. He said an IQ showed how much intelligence you could get, like the numbers on the outside of a measuring cup. You still had to fill the cup up with stuff. So you do have a question there? Then when I asked Bert, who gives me my intelligence test and works with Algernon, he said that both of them were wrong, only I had to promise not to tell them he said so he obviously doesn't want to disappoint them or upset them. Bert says that IQ measures a lot of different things, including some of the things you learned already, and it really isn't any good at all. So I still don't know what IQ is, except that mine's going to be over 200 soon. I didn't want to say anything, but I don't see how if they don't know what it is or where it is, I don't see how they know how much of it you've got. Dr. Niemer says I have to take the Rorschach test tomorrow. I wonder what that is. April 22nd, and you will have a question that comes from this next chunk. I found out what a Rorschach is. It's a test I took before the operation. It's the one with the ink blots on the pieces of cardboard. The man who gave me the test was the same one. So go ahead and take a moment to answer that question. I was scared to death of those ink blots. I knew he was going to ask me to find the pictures, and I knew I wouldn't be able to. I was thinking to myself, if only there was some way of knowing what kind of pictures were hidden there. Maybe there weren't any pictures at all. Maybe it was just a trick to see if I was dumb enough to look for something that wasn't there. Just thinking about that made me sore at him. All right, Charlie, he said. You've seen these cards before, remember? Of course I remember. The way I said it, he knew I was angry, and he looked surprised. Yes, of course. Now I want you to look at this one. What might this be? What do you see on this card? People see all sorts of things in these ink blots. Tell me what it might be for you. What it makes you think of. I was shocked. That wasn't what I had expected him to say at all. You mean there are no pictures hidden in those ink blots? And you have a question on this part, so you can pause here to answer it if you'd like. What we just read. He frowned and took off his glasses. What? Pictures hidden in the ink blots. Last time you told me that everyone could see them and you wanted me to find them too. He explained to me that the last time he'd used almost the exact same words he was using now. I didn't believe it, and I still have the suspicion that he misled me at the time just for the fun of it. Unless, I don't know anymore. Could I have been that feeble minded? There will be a question based on this paragraph we just read. We went through the cards slowly. One of them looked like a pair of bats tugging at something. Another one looked like two men fencing with swords. I imagined all sorts of things. I guess I got carried away, but I didn't trust him anymore, and I kept turning them around, and even looking on the back to see if there was anything there I was supposed to catch. While he was making his notes, I peeked out of the corner of my eye to read it, but it was all in code that looked like this. The test still doesn't make sense to me. It seems to me that anyone could make up lies about things that they didn't really see. How could he know I wasn't making a fool of him by mentioning things that I didn't really imagine? Maybe I'll understand it when Dr. Strauss lets me read up on psychology. April 25th. I figured out a new way to line up the machines in the factory, and Mr. Donegan says it'll save him $10,000 a year in labor and increase production. He gave me a $25 bonus. And there's a question on that paragraph. I wanted to take Joe Carp and Frank Riley out to lunch to celebrate, but Joe said he had to buy some things for his wife, and Frank said he was meeting his cousin for lunch. I guess it'll take a little time for them to get used to the changes in me. Everybody seems to be frightened of me. When I went over to Amos Borg and tapped him on the shoulder, he jumped up in the air. People don't talk to me much anymore, kid around the way they used to. It makes the job kind of lonely. There's a question on that part. April 27th, we have a couple of questions about this entry. I got up the nerve today to ask Miss Kinnian to have dinner with me tomorrow night to celebrate my bonus. So there's a question there. At first she said she wasn't sure it was right. Think about it, guys. A teacher having lunch with or dinner with their student. So she's obviously got a code of morals, like she has values, she doesn't think it's right to do that. But I asked Dr. Strauss and he said it was okay. Dr. Strauss and Dr. Niemer don't seem to be getting along so well. They're arguing all the time. This evening when I came in to ask Dr. Strauss about having dinner with Miss Kinnian, I heard them shouting. Dr. Niemer was saying it was his experiment and his research, and Dr. Strauss was shouting back that he contributed just as much because he found me through Miss Kinnian and he performed the operation. Dr. Strauss said that someday thousands of neurosurgeons might be using this technique all over the world. Dr. Niemer wanted to publish the results of the experiment at the end of this month. Dr. Strauss wanted to wait a while longer to be sure, and I'm guessing here it's to be sure that it's permanent, right? You don't want to publish the results if you don't know if your experiment is even something that would work. Dr. Niemer said that Dr. Strauss was nothing but an opportunist who was trying to ride to glory on his coattails. When I left afterwards, I found myself trembling. I don't know why for sure, but it was as if I'd seen both men clearly for the first time. I remember hearing Bert say that Dr. Niemer had a shrew, which is a nice word for a bad word. Shrew is. A shrew of a wife who was pushing him all the time to get things published so that he could become famous. Bert said that the dream of her life was to have a big shot husband. Was Dr. Strauss really trying to ride on his coattails? And there's a question on that part. April 28th. I don't understand why I never noticed how beautiful Miss Kinnian really is. She has brown eyes and feathery brown hair that comes to the top of her neck. She's only 34. I think from the beginning I had the feeling that she was an unreachable genius and very, very old. Now every time I see her, she grows younger and more lovely. Now she's not growing younger and lovely, right? He's just maturing. So you have a question on that paragraph. We had dinner and a long talk. When she said I was coming along so fast that I'd soon be leaving her behind, I laughed. It's true, Charlie. You're already a better reader than I am. You can read a whole page at a glance. Well, I can take in only a few lines at a time. And you remember every single thing you read. I'm lucky if I can recall the main thoughts and the general meaning. So you have a question on that part? I don't feel intelligent. There are so many things I still don't understand. She took out a cigarette and I lit it for her. You've got to be a little patient. You're accomplishing in days and weeks what it takes normal people to do in half a lifetime. That's what it makes it so amazing. You're like a giant sponge now, soaking things in. Facts, figures, general knowledge. And soon you'll begin to connect them too. You'll see how the different branches of learning are related. There are many levels, Charlie, like steps on a giant ladder that take you up higher and higher to see more and more of the world around you. And there is a question on that last chunk. I can see only a little bit of that, Charlie, and I won't go much higher than I am now. But you'll keep climbing up and see more, and each step will open new worlds that you never even knew existed. She frowned. I just hope to God. What? Never mind, Charles. Just hope I wasn't wrong to advise you to go into this in the first place. So here we see that she's worried And she doesn't say what, but as readers, we can infer she's worried that it's not going to be permanent. And she's the one that advised him. You have a question on that part right there. I laughed. How could that be? It worked, didn't it? Even Algernon is still smart. So you do have a question on this part. So he's trying to reassure her that um, she was okay to advise him because Algernon is still smart. So in turn, he has, the belief that he's going to stay smart. So go ahead and answer that question. We sat there silently for a while, and I knew what she was thinking about. She's thinking about the fact that he may go back to the way he was, as she watched me toying with the chain of my rabbit's foot and my keys. I didn't want to think of that possibility, so he doesn't want to think about going back to the way he used to be, any more than elderly people want to think of death. So here he's comparing going back to the way he used to be to death. That's harsh. I mean, it's awful for him to be who he used to be. I knew that this was only the beginning. I knew what she meant about levels because I'd seen some of them already. The thought of leaving her behind made me sad. And you do have a question on this part. I'm in love with Miss Kinnian. And you have a question there. So there you go, guys. We have read all of it. Go ahead and answer the questions now if you haven't already.